A resounding yes from Maguindanao residents emerged in the recent plebiscite to divide the province into Maguindanao del Norte and Maguindanao del Sur. What are its implications? The Senate ratifies the bicameral conference committee report on a bill seeking to postpone the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections originally set December 5 this year. The House of Representatives is expected to follow suit, but poll watchdogs are opposing this as it is tantamount, they say, to disenfranchising voters. And the recent appointment of former Supreme Court Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin as the new Executive Secretary and the creation of the Office of the Presidential Chief of Staff are raising some questions related to the handling of President Bongbong Marcos's daily affairs. Separately, there is also the existing presidential management staff. Good evening, I'm Pia Hontiveros. Welcome to your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. Our guest tonight for this first part of the show via Zoom, joining us from Cagayan de Oro, is former ambassador and former Lanao del Norte Representative Makabangkit Lanto, and also a little later on, Maguindanao board member Kaka Jeng Ampatuan Makapendeg. Good evening first to you, Congressman or Ambassador Lanto.
Good evening, Pia. Good evening to your televiewers. Thank you for having me in your popular program.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for joining us again. There was this overwhelming turnout doon sa plebiscite in Maguindanao and an overwhelming yes vote. This is very timely. You've been writing in your column about this attempt or effort to divide Maguindanao into two different provinces. And now the question is, first, before we go into the details now about Maguindanao and politics there, let's talk about gerrymandering, sir, because this is gerrymandering, as you've also said, or dividing it into different provinces. This is nothing new, sir. No, it has happened before in other provinces. But can you define that for us first? Gerrymandering, define that for our viewers.
Well, gerrymandering is a portmanteau of two words. Jerry, which comes from the name of the Boston governor who divided his districts into several districts, forming a figure of salamander. And with that, they call it gerrymandering, which means that the splitting of political subdivisions to suit the political interests of whoever is the sponsor of the move.
So in this sense, sir, I suppose we can take this in a neutral way, no? Itong the idea of gerrymandering. Whose interests are suited here, no? Who is going to benefit because Maguindanao is going to be divided into Del Norte and Del Sur?
First, Pia, it will benefit the political dynasties in the place. That is why some moralists are uncomfortable about splitting this political divisions, or rather political places. But in terms of the benefits that will derive out of splitting political entities or provinces, it will be beneficial to the residents. Why? Because first, there will be a focus of governance, because the politics of the governors will be diluted. Very limited publics will be concentrated for for the interest of the residents of the place. With the advent of the era, there will
Internal
be
revenue
more
allotment.
funding from the national government to support the entity And in the case of the BARM also, aside from the assistance and benefits coming from the national government, the BARM government, mainly the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, has some funds also for the development of the area. In terms of the peace and order, Pia, there will be more concentration. It will promote more peace and order. Why? Because there will be more concentration of the pacification campaign of government, while the former province will have a huge, big coverage. Now, it will be concentrated on an area.
Congressman or Ambassador Lanto, kanina binanggit po ninyo yung mga political dynasties. Of course, we're referring to the political families of Maguindanao, the very famous political clans, the Mangudadatus, the Ampatuans, also the Sinsuats and the Masturas. It's interesting because Maguindanao del Sur will have as its first governor, the governor now of Maguindanao, who just won in the last election, by Maria Mangudadatu. And then Del Norte will have as its first governor, the vice governor now of Maguindanao, by Aini Sinsuat. So itong mga political clans, yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, can you talk about those political clans briefly and how this division of Maguindanao into Del Norte and Del Sur will, I suppose, in a way, help keep the peace? Is that what's going to happen? All right, I think we have a little problem with communication right now kay Congressman and Ambassador Lanto. But we're going to speak first to a Maguindanao Provincial Board member. His name is Amil Hussein or Kaka Jeng Ampatuan Makapendeg. Jeng Makapendeg, good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you po.
Yes. Hi. Thank you very much for joining us. I mentioned your middle name, no, Ampatuan. So you are a member of the Ampatuan clan.
Yes po, ma'am. Ako po yung representative nila or tumakbo po nitong election po as a board member of Maguindanao po, 2nd District.
2nd District, all right. So let's talk first about how, kanina nga ang kausap ko si Congressman or former Ambassador Makabengkit Lanto, and he was talking about how this can help ease the situation, no, in the province, because what you have is a division of two provinces into Del Norte and Del Sur, and therefore, should we look at it, Board Member Jeng, as para bang will it help keep the peace, no, among these political clans, including yours?
Yes po, ma'am. Auzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Thank you for inviting me, ma'am. Yes po, ma'am. Makakatulong po talaga to sa, siyempre, peace and development sa aming lugar. And then, itong panahon po, nagkakasundo na po yung mga political clans, political family of Maguindanao, like our family, Ampatuan, Mangudadatus, Sinsuat, Mastura, Matalam, and Pendatun. And yung alliance po namin talagang napakalakas.
So in a way, itong tinatawag na nga na gerrymandering, no, dividing political territory, it will distribute political power, and therefore, and like you said, no, you're cooperating among each other, and therefore, it will keep the peace.
Yes po, ma'am. Matutugunan po ang bawat needs po ng mamamayan po ng Maguindanao. And sa kaduluduluhan, sa mga barangay, municipalities po, naniniwala po kami na pag may peace, papasok na po yung development sa amin.
And is this a reflection, or was this reflected in the plebiscite turnout? Because ang laki ng, 80-90% turnout ba? And a very big resounding yes to this division of Maguindanao.
Opo, ma'am. Nung una po, ay hindi po na talaga namin ma-question na marami pong magnono. Talagang overwhelming. Dahil lahat po nag-cooperate. Kahit saan pong mga ahensya ay nakipagtulungan sa amin. Different groups, different families. At nung una po, pag-umpisa pa lang po nung may sa batas to, wala na po kami naririnig na nagnono. Kung meron man, ma'am, konti lang po talaga.
Oo nga, konti. 5,209 ang nag-no, ano? And ang nag-yes, 706,558 votes. So, if this will keep the peace, so in a way, Bokal Jeng, this is like, teritoryo nyo yan, teritoryo namin ito. Ganun ba? Is that how it's going to work?
Pwede, ma'am. But then, ang iniisip namin, ma'am, kung paano talaga namin matulungan yung bawat isa. Paano namin ma-uplift yung isang Maguindanao as a whole. And naniniwala din kami na pag nagtutulungan kaming mga political family sa Maguindanao, ay bawat membro ng pamilya ay mabibigyan ng trabaho. Yung lahat po ng mga constituents namin, matutulungan namin at makakapag-focus po kami sa bawat needs po in terms of infrastructure, tourism, agrikultura, education, as a whole na po. Nasubukan na po namin to before nung meron pong Sheriff Kabunsuan province.
Right. This was 2006, no? A failed
Opo.
attempt by the ARMM to carve out Sheriff Kabunsuan province from Maguindanao.
Yes. Opo.
Okay. So, Kaka Jeng, what are we looking at progress for Maguindanao finally? You think this will pave the way for progress? Because if you're saying that there will be peace, that individuals' needs will be met, will there be progress? No. In other words, ang Maguindanao will be in the news not because of massacres or conflict or violence, but because there is progress, because there will be investments. Things will happen there.
Yes, ma'am. Alam niyo po, ma'am, no? Matagal na pong panahon, pasok po talaga sa poorest province yung aming probinsya. Pero nung pumasok po yung alliance, lalo-lalo na po ang aming gobernador, by Miriam Sangki Mangudadato and the rest of the clans, ay talagang bumaba po, no? Unti-unti kaming bumaba po doon sa poorest province. So, ito pong pagdating ng Maguindanao Sur and Norte, at naniniwala kami na ito na yon. Ito na yung chance namin na pagbigyan po kami na dapat po namin ipakita. Ngayon po, makikita po natin lahat sa news. Kabi-kabila ang tulong sa medisina, gumaganda na po yung roads namin, at marami pa mga projects na pumapasok. At wala na rin pong big groups na pwedeng, hadlang sa Maguindanao. Yung MLF po, nandiyan na po ang BARM. At kami po ay yung alliance po namin ay very solid at majority po sa amin nanalo. At naipakita namin nitong plebiscito na talagang overwhelming. No, kukunti lang po talaga yung nag-vote ng no. Hindi man namin maiwasan, pero may pakita po namin this time na karapat-dapat po na talagang mahati na po sa Sur and Norte.
Yeah. Well, Kaka Jeng, you said it so yourself, no? Pinagbigyan na kayo ngayon. So, syempre, all eyes will be on both Maguindanao del Norte and Maguindanao del Sur. And we hope this will pave the way not just for peace but for real progress. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Kaka Jeng Makapendeg, who is a board member of the 2nd District of the province of Maguindanao, soon to be divided into Maguindanao del Norte and Maguindanao del Sur. And also thank you very much to former Ambassador and Lanao del Norte Representative Makabangkit Lanto. Sir, we'll have you again on the show in the near future. Maraming salamat po. We'll be back after this quick break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. This is Politics as usual. The Senate has ratified the bicameral conference committee report on a bill that will postpone the barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections this year. The House of Representatives expected to follow suit, but poll watchdogs are opposing it as they say this will prevent voters from choosing their next set of local leaders. Our next guests here in the studio are political analysts and former presidential spokesperson Edwin Lacerda and Richard A. Darian, also a political analyst, soon to be. Depends which administration you're talking about. Welcome back to the show, Secretary Edwin and Richard. Thank you very much for being here. Before we talk about that, barangay and SK elections, just a little bit about this Maguindanao. gerrymandering or the division into Del Norte and Del Sur? A few thoughts.
It's not the first time that it happened. You've seen it all over the country. I mean, previous administrations also did it already.
Compostela Valley, right?
You know, the noble purpose is really lesser population, more focused service to the people. But that's the noble.
The noble,
But the fact is, you divide it so that you can the dynasty that's on top of it can hold power. So the challenge for them, whether it's the Magundadatos or the Sinsuats, to make sure that the poverty incidents go down.
Right. O nga, kanina sabi ni Jeng Pendig, who is also an Ampatuan, his middle name is Ampatuan, no? I was saying na binigyan na sila ng pagkakataon now, and I was saying na well, with peace, there should be progress, no? And they're hoping for that, no?
In fairness to Maguindanao, their poverty level went down. They used to be cluster 1, they're now cluster 2. So gumanda naman yung poverty, bumaba yung poverty incidence nila. But so now that hiniwalay na and granted na talaga yung political interest, their challenge is to make sure that they serve the people well and lower the poverty incidence. Ang taas ng poverty incidence pa rin.
Right. Oo nga. All eyes on Del Norte and Del Sur, Maguindanao. And I was saying na nga na ngayon, wala nang excuse. There shouldn't be any excuse anymore. No? Wala nang gulo, hopefully. Richard?
Yeah, for me, I always zoom out. And what I was looking at is, what does it say about Marcos' ability to navigate the dynastic politics, how he builds rapport with the local leaders, especially as, there are questions about what's Bongbong Marcos' plan on the Bangsamoro question, right? Aquino staked a lot of it. We had the peace negotiations, peace agreement. In fairness to President Duterte, election campaign pa lang, he said he's also for it, even though that was politically difficult for him. And he went for it. I think one of his finest hours was the Bangsamoro referendum that went way more smoother than anyone expected. But alam natin, we're still not there yet. We're still in the transition period. So, and we know, of course, during the campaign, some political figures sided with the opposition, for instance, right? So that was what I was really looking at, how he's going to navigate this very difficult, sometimes minefield-like political landscape.
Well, navigating with unity.
Yeah, exactly, right? And in fairness,
true to the campaign theme.
It seems like, he passed the first test, no? So let's see how things will move forward from here, in terms of the overall direction is going to take on the peace process question. I mean, after all, one of his justification for us to be a non-permanent member again of United Nations Security Council is supposedly our success story in the peace agreement in Mindanao. So let's see how is he going to handle the Mindanao
Which,
question.
by the way, he questioned. I mean, when he was still senator, we were pushing the peace agreement. So he was questioning because of the Mama Sapano thing. But, they were really up there. But, pag presidente ka na, iba na yan. So, but, when you're president, in our political system, everybody bows to Malacanang. You don't fight City Hall.
Oh, naman.
So all these governors, tumataya yan towards the end, like what si Magundadato did. I mean, di ba? But basically, everybody is beholden to the palace. Depends on how you generate your own income. Because right now, the era is now supposedly autonomous yan, so automatic yan. So, but then again, it's really, I don't, and also BARM is really one area where most of the politicians there would really submit to the president.
Yeah, well, like you said, you don't fight City Hall, or in this case,
More like
Malacanang,
the treasury.
The treasury.
The treasury,
Especially because you have 31 million voters who voted for you. And Mama Sapano pala, one of 8 municipalities that will be part of Maguindanao del Sur. Okay, we're going to move on now and talk about, as I was saying a while ago, the barangay and SK elections. Again, postponement dati 2016 dapat, naging 2017, naging 2018, naging 2022, 2023. How are we supposed to look at this, Edwin?
Practically, it's very expensive. Barangay elections are supposed to be non-partisan. But we know for a fact that barangay leaders are political wards of whoever the congressman or the mayor. And katatapos lang ng eleksyon eh. So, nagbuhos ng pera ang mga politiko. So, a year after that, they're going to spend money again. So, it's really difficult. And the fact also is, from the COMELEC's perspective, it has to have a separate elections. Because imagine, there are 42,000 barangays in the country. Imagine mo, i-synchronize mo yan, the list, our ballot form is already long. So, they have to make sure, maybe by next year. Because right now, sa totoo lang, it's really very expensive. These politicians, they're going to support their barangay wards. Kahit nasabihin mong non-partisan yan, in theory and in all legal
practice,
principle, non-partisan siya. But you know for a fact na yung mayor, alam niya, sila yung mga eyes and ears sa barangay, and it's the smallest unit of political power. So you have the politicians have to rely on the barangay captains, the barangay officials. They help you, they promote you.
Yeah, yeah. But it's such an issue for a very big debate now because, you know, people are saying, oh, you're denying our right to vote. This is unconstitutional, like Edzo was saying. It's going to be expensive. You know, you've spent money already, etc. Ang daming issues.
I remember, we also postponed it during our time. Because nga, number one is the cost talaga. It's really very expensive. But you got 42,000 barangays. You cannot synchronize that. And you know, you don't, question is, can you automate it? Hindi rin. So it's really manual talaga. So COMELEC has to find a way and to make a final decision, or at least the House and the Senate should decide what's the best time to do that. And normally, kung gusto mo matuloy yan, a year or two after the elections of both midterm and national. Kasi gastos talaga yan. I mean, from a very practical point of view, gastos yan.
Eh di tamang-tama yung December 2023 kasi a year and a half after May 2022.
Why not?
Richard, si Amy Marcos was saying that, you know, they want to introduce reforms and this will, you know, the postponement will allow them to do this. What kind of reform? You know, apart from yung part nakangiti na si Eddie, apart from the, you know, calling it for what it really is, no, calling it a spade, no. What can we do?
I mean, definite electoral reform is a big, you know, is a black hole staring at us, right? Like, yan ang wala talaga sa atin. How can you talk about democracy? Kung election time pa lang, you're encouraging all sorts of patronage politics, no? And even more, sinasabi, batang-bata pa lang, ano na, di ba? So, dapat sana...
Bata o gurang?
Yeah, di ba? I mean, dapat, if you're gonna talagang yung ugat ng problema when it comes to patronage politics and all the shenanigans that, you know, question the maturity of our democracy, then siguro we have to do something about it dun sa SK elections pa lang, no? The thing naman with barangays, I don't know, maybe we can do something like we do with the Senate, right? 12-12 sequencing, I don't know. I know it's going to be complicated, but if the numbers and logistic is monstrous, maybe you can spread it, right? You get what I'm saying? Like, so I think there are many modifications and permutations we can look at, but for me, generally, the idea of postponement of elections also has this kind of a, you know, menacing aura. It's like postponement of election. Maybe now it's barangay. Next thing you know, midterms will be postponed. Yeah, so I think there's also that kind of connotation that's attached to just any kind of postponement of elections because we Filipinos, despite our tolerance for a lot of horrible things as far as governance is concerned,
Elections are sacred.
elections are part of the fabric of our being. Eh. Yeah.
Ano no, they
Make money.
make money.
Yes, there's a political economy to
That's
it.
why our
right?
voter turnout is so high. I mean, look at the midterms in the US. Ang sabi nila, mababa ang voter turnout pag midterms. But tayo sa Pilipinas, it's 80%. Regardless of whether it's midterm or national, it's more than 80%.
It's a political economy. Parang it's like war economy, meron election economy, right? So apektado lahat yan. So there's so much at stake. But for me, sana naman, tignan din natin yung ugat ng problema. Why is there patronage politics? I mean, ang mahal ng mga even SK elections. I mean, look at it. Oh my God, what's going on here, right? So parang
Starting
hindi ko ma-afford but yung SK elections, hindi ko ma-afford. Assuming Gen Z ako, no? So for me, I agree with Senator Amy. I don't know what track she wants to take, but I think we have to do some fundamental change noon pa lang. So if we're gonna pause it or postpone it, there has to be some deep thinking about it. Hindi yung parang arbitrary or yung parang every few years i-push natin, sorry, wala tayong pera para sa inyo eh. Andyan na yung mga big parties eh, parang gano'n.
The reason why you can postpone barangay and you cannot postpone midterms and national because that's stated in the Constitution, unlike barangay elections. Barangay elections was a product of a law. So since it was a product of a law, you can also postpone it. Depends on the justifying reasons. But like again, it's really who are the ones drafting the law? Congressmen and senators. I mean, they've spent a handful on the previous elections, whether midterm or national, because tuloy-tuloy yung takbo na every 3 years eh. So you're spending a lot on that, and then now you have to protect your wards. That's another cost. You spent already in the midterm or national elections. You protected them in the wards. Now you're going to protect them again by promoting their candidacy. I mean, that's the pragmatic side.
Yung pandemic, no? I mean, like, nagre-recover pa lang tayo. Medyo ubus-ubus na.
All right, more from our guests and on another topic when we return. This is Politics as Usual. You're still in politics as usual. Malacanang recently announced the appointment of former Chief Justice Lucas Bersamin to replace Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez. Rodriguez now heads the newly created Office of the Presidential Chief of Staff. Amid these new appointments, another office in the palace is helping manage the day-to-day activities of President Marcos. Still with us, and that, of course, is the Presidential Management Staff, or PMS, headed by Zenaida Angping. Still with us, our political analysts Edwin Lasherde and Richard Haydaran. Let's begin with Edwin kasi he's had the Malacanang experience. Yeah. Tell us first about, okay, so itong may Office of the Executive Secretary, may Chief of Staff ka, tapos may PMS ka. Nung panahon ni Pinoy, ni President Aquino, what was the setup like? And if you compare it to today, what are we to make of this?
You know, the positions of Executive Secretary and the Presidential Management Staff are all found in the Revised Administrative Code of 1987. This is the code that was created after after the EDSA revolution, panahon ni Cory. So very clear, it's clearly defined, and by tradition and history, and later on becoming a law, the positions of ES and PMS are familiar to government functionaries. Now, there are instances in the past where the Chief of Staff position was created in the time of ERAP. Si Lakian, remember, I am the designated driver, and because of that statement, he was fired. Diba? And then in the case of GMA, there was Mike Defensor, and before he became Justice of the Supreme Court, Renato Corona. And typically, because the position of Chief of Staff is, someone described it as, ang Chief of Staff kasi, and like PMS, inward-looking. You attend to the needs of the President. The day-to-day, the travels, the
Errand
protocols, the
boy, right?
schedules. Something like
Sorry
that.
to say
And
that.
also the technical support, resource-based. The ES is outward-looking. And normally the conflict is with, if there's a Chief of Staff position, it will conflict with the PMS.
Yeah.
Because both are inward-looking. I'm attending to the needs of the President. In this particular case, the administrative order drafted by Mr. Rodriguez, and as well as a special order that came along, wanted to be an outward-looking position, which is not the case. So you're talking about decision-making powers, appointing powers, supervisory powers. These are and signing for on behalf of the President.
Right.
Remember, this is only the ES can say by
Sugar order
authority of
number
the
4
President.
Okay.
So, but now the draft orders of Mr. Rodriguez wanted these powers as well, and that's why it prompted JPE as Chief Presidential Legal Counsel to issue an opinion which says these are all in conflict with, these are duplication of duties.
Okay.
EMS, ES, NEDA, and Special Assistant.
Okay, so they went and resolved things by making Vic Rodriguez Chief of Staff. Ano yun?
Which is really a problem because by and large, you can exist without a Chief of Staff.
Yeah.
And
So what is it? What kind of an office? So
We don't know the-
decoration. What is it?
We
Sorry, I'll say it. I'll say that as a question.
Consuelo.
Is it decoration? Ano?
So I
Consuelo?
would say maybe Consuelo. I don't know. I mean, institutional memory, I'll definitely defer to Erwin any moment. Akin lang kasi, once Duterte came in, he reset the deck eh. He broke so much precedence and created so much precedence. I mean, the whole bongo situation we had under President Duterte, I think completely transformed our idea of the office of the president, right? So I think that's why President Marcos comes in, he has to deal with the precedence of Duterte. He wants to bring an element of tradition, but at the same time, there are people within circle who said, maybe we want to be the bongo too. Gatekeeper power is extremely
So
important.
parang accommodating, or I mean, he couldn't have just said,
just for purposes of the law, the President has the power to reorganize the office of the President.
in any way he wishes.
In any way he deems fit. Like in our case, remember in our case, during our time, si President Aquino created PCOO and
Presidential
PCDSPO,
Communications
the Office of Ricky
Office.
Carandang and the one of Coloma. He took out OPS.
Yeah, and then you
Secretary.
and Abby Valte.
No, we had already a position as
Okay.
spokesperson was already there. But
So that was like accommodation also, di ba?
No. It was the idea of making focusing on what the role of PCOO, which is the infrastructure of communications. Si Ricky naman is more the substantive, the speeches, the content, and all that, official gazette. So it was very clear to us.
Yeah.
We patterned ourselves after the communications office of the White House. So that was very clear. There was no.
But this is also to accommodate everybody.
Ako, the way I
right?
put it, I'll put a more positive spin to it.
Sige,
I don't want to use the. Let's just call it this. We have a more diffused model of governance, right? Whereby it's not one gatekeeper determining where you meet the president, how the presidential office communicates internally and externally. Now you have a more diffuse situation. Maybe this is something that President Marcos is more
But the problem
comfortable
is it causes more problems.
Yeah.
The more diffuse it is, the
Confusion.
problem. Look, the gatekeeper, for instance, on outward looking,
Yeah.
is
Okay.
ES.
Okay.
PMS is the one inward looking. It takes
Yeah.
care of all the needs of the
But
president.
right now, I have a huge problem. I'm overtime already.
Okay.
So I have to say thank you so much to our guests, Richard Hidarian and Edwin Desjardins. Earlier to makabangkit lang to former congressman, former ambassador, and Jeng Makapendeg, a board member of the Maguindanao, the province of Maguindanao. Soon to be Maguindanao del Norte, Maguindanao del Sur. We've been told before, don't talk politics at the dinner table or the family reunion or in group chats, digital or otherwise, but we can talk about it here at this table on this show, your weekly political appointment fix, politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. See you back here next Wednesday, 8 p.m.